SAFA's regular media briefings. This morning, the Minister will be briefing us on the status of our electricity systems, and he is joined by Eskom executives. We've got Mr. Dan Marugane, who is Eskom's Group Chief Executive. We've got Mr. Christopher Nani, who is the Acting Group Executive for Generation. We are also joined by Mr. Eric Shunmagam, who is the General Manager for Generation at Eskom. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to the Minister. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Tsakani, and good morning to everyone, those who are watching us at home, and also just to thank the members of the media for always making time to facilitate this conversation with the general public. So we are eternally grateful for the media to make it possible for us to communicate with the rest of the country on matters of national importance. And also just to acknowledge the leadership of Eskom, led by the Group Chief Executive, Mr. Dan Marugane. Thank you very much for joining us. So we have, as it is customary, occasion this media briefing for us to be able to take the country through the performance of the grid during this winter period. Of course, in our computation, our winter, we calculated, if you like, from the 1st of April to the 31st of August, of course, May to August rather, just to give you a sense of how the grid is performing. This is important because we have committed ourselves to transparency, accountability, and ensuring that we are able to share with the general public, our customers and the industry, the performance of the grid, so that there's some degree of appreciation on what to expect going forward. Of course, at the end of the winter period, we'll then provide a summer outlook, which will cover the remainder of the year, just on the anticipated performance of the grid, so that we continue to give assurance to the rest of the country on the work that we are doing. So I'm happy to say that we are in good space. When we announced the winter plan, we did indicate that if the breakdowns, what we call in the technical language, the unplanned capacity load factor, the breakdowns exceed 13,000 megawatts, then we think that we might be in a serious problem. And serious problem in this instance means that we might have to initiate load shedding. And depending on the amount of megawatts above the threshold of 13,000, we might have to initiate particular levels of load shedding. So we shared that to the country, but we also said the following when we announced the summer plan. We said that we are confident that we are going into this winter with a system that is relatively stronger compared to what was the situation in 2023, and also we're expecting a number of units to come into play during the winter period. We did make reference to the fact that we now have in our AMA Kusile unit number 6, and we also indicated that we do expect that during the winter period we will have the benefit of Medupi unit number 4. And all of those things have come into fruition, and that has made it possible for us to say to the country that we have not registered load shedding. And of course, we are anticipating that going into the remaining of the winter and then transitioning into summer, we really don't expect any major surprises in relation to the performance of the grid. Of course, this is a dynamic system. These are rotating units. There could be challenges here and there, and I'll share with you how we're able to address those challenges as and when they appear, because the grid is designed in such a manner that we can call on what we call the peaking plants to help us to sustain the performance of the grid without relying on load shedding, to ensure that we protect the South African economy. So really that's a function of the peakers. They are meant to, if you like, is a card we have when we are in major challenges. Then we were able to play that card so that we were able to keep the lights on. And I'm happy to also indicate that our modeling was, of course, we had made the point that if the losses are 13,000 and below, we should not have load shedding. And I must say that we are doing substantially better than that. Substantially better than that because we are beginning to see that the system is stable, is resilient, is becoming more and more reliable as we move forward. I mean, just to give you a sense that the unplanned outages of the generation units, they average about 10,884 megawatts over the past 7 days. And we have seen even going below 10,000 megawatts, breaching the 9,000 megawatts point. So that's important because we did say if it goes above 13,000 megawatts of losses, we might have to initiate load shedding. We're substantially lower than that. And I really want to congratulate Dan and the rest of the team, the 42,000 plus men and women at Eskom, for being able to keep their shoulder to the wheel, transfixed on the resolution of what is essentially an existential challenge that continues to face the country, but we are more than confident that we are getting out of the woods. What is this, the EAF? The average EAF, when we aggregate all of the units put together, the EAF for the period the 1st of April to the 8th of August was sitting at 60.14%. And of course, this is a major progress that we are making. And if you look at what the performance was, if we were to go back 2023, when we initiated these interventions, we're substantially lower than this amount. So I think it's important that there's a greater level of appreciation. We're coming from the lows of about 49%, and thanks to the men and women at Eskom, we're making that tremendous progress. But when we take it closer, remember I'm averaging it since the beginning of the financial year, the 1st of April to the 8th of August. What has been the performance in the recent past? So recent past, really, I'm talking about the past 14 days or so. We say that the EAF is, in fact, continuing to give us, if you like, spectacular results, that at some point we even breached the 70% mark in relation to performance of EAF. This is significant. It's a psychological mark. Remember that the shareholder, as part of the shareholder compact, so this is an agreement between government represented by the Minister of Electricity and Energy, that is myself, the agreement we enter with the Eskom board. We have said that for the current financial year, we want to get the EAF to about 70%. And we are beginning to see these green shoots. Green shoots in this instance, the team has illustrated that it's possible for us to achieve that 70% EAF. And then we have breached it in that period. What is the average month to date? What is it that we have performed over this period? We are sitting at 65.38%. So I think it's important that we have this appreciation. We are moving in the right direction. We had made the promise to the country that we are going to experience short-term pain. You remember when we stood before the country experiencing bout of load shedding, we said we know what we are doing. The team is focused on ensuring that there's maintenance on these units that have been very problematic, complicit in giving us load shedding. They require time. And the most of the country very patient with us. They believed in us, and we're happy to say that we're delivering against the promise that we had given to you. And in fact, in some instances, we're delivering more than what we had promised. And then the other point I want to raise is how have we used the pickers? So this is when we ban diesel to ensure that we are able to support the grid. The load factor on the diesel reached about 5.99% this week, which is greater than the same period last year. And in rand value terms, we spent over 5 billion rands. So I really want to put this into context because this is what is in the general public. We use the pickers when we are experiencing difficulty from the rest of the fleet to support or meet the expectation of the demand that is placed on the grid. So the whole fleet of Eskom is designed that you have, if you like, substitutes. When you have difficulty, there's a player, if I were to use the metaphor of football, there's a player that is injured, you still want to have 11 players on the field. So we call on that substitute to come and support the team. And this is what we've been doing. Yes, it is not a secret that we experienced significant challenges at the beginning of the financial year. April, we relied more and more on the diesel to be able to support us. And this diesel was able to support us because it's meant to support us during those periods of difficulty. Of course, the budget for the diesel is about current financial year, I think it's about 12 billion or so. We've spent about 5 billion of that. Then the next question you'll ask, but it's at the beginning of the financial year, you have spent close over 40% of your annual allocation. It is because it is during winter when the intensity of the demand reaches the peak, and that's when we are likely going to experience challenges if some units fail, because we don't have the headroom for us to be able to absorb those failures of the units. What do? We then call on our ACE card, which is the pickers, to come and help us. So they're designed to do that. I mean, just to give you a context, for the period of 1 April to 31 August in 2023, just that period, we used about 14.8 billion rand. And I'm saying to you now that for now we used 5.8 billion rand. And it's also true that last year during this period, we spent 3.6 billion rand because the system, the units that were meant to returned on time last year. It's something that we fixed, and we have gone back to the performance that we are expecting. So the point I'm making to the general public is the following. When we ban diesel, we are meant to ban it because the system is under strain. And I'm further saying to the whole country that the system has recovered. You can see the EAF. And in fact, there are periods in the week where we have to put the machines in cold reserve. Cold reserve means we are generating more than what the demand is, and to protect the grid, we must pull back some of the machines. We are in that situation. It's a better situation to be in when you are generating more than what the demand is. What that says is that we are now created sufficient space and headroom for the economy to grow on the back of this performance. And I really want to congratulate Mr. Marokane and the team for the exceptional work that we are doing. We are marching, and we are going to get out of the woods. How have we got here? It should not be lost on us that we are coming from lows of the EAF sitting at about 49% of performance. And I just said to you that the average for the past week, 65.85%. And in fact, we had days where we reached about 70%. A remarkable improvement. But this is not a stroke of luck. It's because of the meticulous, calculated, and deliberate orchestration of the strategy that we have set in place. So what did we do? We made sure that we are able to set up enabling structures to support this recovery. So first there must be a plan in place, and then you put the structures to support that plan. And the Energy Action Plan, as announced by the President, had 5 outcomes. Outcome number 1 was to say fix Eskom. So in responding to that outcome number 1, Eskom then introduced a generation recovery plan. So the point I'm making is that there is value, the utility of investing in a plan that meets the expectations of what our objectives are, and then you are able to resource that plan to ensure that we are able to achieve the kind of result. And then we said, for us to get to where we want to, although we're in the midst of load shedding, there were stations that were performing well. And we said, as a minimum, protect the performance of these stations. Because if they were to deteriorate and experience the kind of difficulties that are experienced by other stations, the situation will be worse. So ensure that you maintain performance at those stations. What are those stations? Midupile, Thabo, and Matimba. So those are flagship stations from an EAF point of view. They are the ones that did the heavy lifting. When everyone around them, that is the stations, were finding great levels of difficulty were choking from a performance point of view. They carried the country, they carried the nation. And then we said, for us to get out of this situation, which are these stations that are complicit in the most disproportionate fashion to load shedding? So these are the ones that accounted for 70% of the losses that we experienced. So these are the ones that plunged us into the situation of load shedding. And then we prioritize them. We say Tutuka, Duva, Majuba, Matla, Kendal, Anot, and Grill. We need to ensure that we get them right. And I really want to say thank you to Mr. Ngumalo, who is the head of generation, of course, led by the board, by the group CE. We invested in that. And then we got the financial support from the South African taxpayer to say we are investing. I'm making the deliberate point that is the South African taxpayer through the fiscus that is, of course, led the National Treasury, Minister Kgosientsho, and then gave us the kind of support that is required. And what is the reward we want to give to the country is to ensure that the lights are on, one, is to ensure that ESCOM gets back to profitability because we owe the country that. The third one is to make sure that this electricity is affordable. But the affordability is a question. ESCOM is a big part of that, but as a ministry, we're going to address that. Because, yes, indeed, we don't have load shedding, but there are many people in many parts of the country that are experiencing load reduction. So that's a downstream isolated capacity constraint such that the infrastructure at the level of distribution and reticulation is not sufficient to provide for the demand that is placed on that infrastructure. Like I said to the country, we're at the final stages of how we are going to resolve load reduction. And remember, we have a template on how we address load shedding. We know that part of that template is to make sure that there's a plan that is financed and resourced, and that's why I said to the country, give me that time, we'll come back, we understand the agency. And in fact, we're just putting the final touches, even by yesterday, to ensure that we are coming back to the country. Now we are addressing the new frontier, load reduction, in the same manner that we've been keeping the country abreast in how we are resolving load shedding. I'll come back to load reduction. We'll remain accountable, working with municipalities and other players going forward. And then we're able to execute Kubek Unit Number 1 outage to ensure the extension of license, and that's the work that the team has done. On all of those priority areas in terms of our plan, we have scored above 80%. So it's green, 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 and that's why the lights are on. But our point was not to end at addressing load shedding. It's to ensure that going into the future, the country is not plunged into darkness. And so what are some of the things that we are doing? Is to ensure that there's a step up. Remember I said we moved from 49% of EAF. We want to now stabilize at the EAF of 65%. And I just told you that in the past 2 weeks or so, we're averaging there. We want to keep it that before we do the next step move. What is it that will keep us at 65%? We are going to continue to execute Kubek Unit Number 1. We are going to ensure that we sustain the performance of this well-performing power station. In that new category of performance now is Kusile, and thanks to the leadership of Kusile is here. He was able to retain Unit Number 1, 2, and 3. We have kept to the promise we have given to the country and the Minister of Environment. Now Kusile is out of that list of units that were in ICU, it is performing. So we need to ensure that now we must address the skills gap. We can't rely on outside parties to come and help us to perform what is in fact the minimum function that is expected of us. The core function of ESCOM is to keep these machines running. So you need the skills that are necessary to be able to support that enterprise of ensuring that we are able to keep the machines running. So there's a reinvestment in the skills. Our own skills internally, take them up a different notch, and also accepting that the configuration of the energy mix is changing. There's more and more renewables that are coming on stream. ESCOM is going to participate in new generation capacity on the renewables. We'll come and share that with you. ESCOM is not a spectator. ESCOM is not just going to the NTCSA, just buying and buying. ESCOM is going to participate because the rules are clear on new generation who must participate. There is nothing in the amendment that stops Mr. Marokane and ESCOM from participating, and we want ESCOM to participate. And that's why those skills are very important. We must address outage slips. I must say to the country, this is one area where we are not doing well. Outage slips means the following, that we take the machine out, we have planned to take it out, and then we say, I'm taking it out for a duration of a month, I'm going to return it after a month. So if I take it out today, 13th of August, I promise that I'll return it by the 13th of September. The expectation is that because we have planned it in advance, the spare parts must be available, the skills that are required to remove the old parts and install the spare parts are available, everything is in place. What we have seen is that we are not keeping to that promise. If come 13th of September, the machine doesn't come back, and we have calculated that that machine will come back when those megawatts don't come into place. It places the system under strain, and then we must spend the diesel. And that's why it's important that we are going to ensure that we address that. So that's what we have been doing to get to this 65%. But our objective is not 65%. Our objective is go to be 70% and above. What will it take for us to be there? We said we must return Medupi unit number 4. Medupi unit number 4 is back. Of course, it's not in commercial operation. It's a technical issue. Of course, it's back. They do the testing. They'll take it out, return it, so that it must pass all the tests. Once it's passed all the tests, it moves from one division, it goes into commercial operation. So we must get it into commercial operation. Although we benefit from the megawatt, but technically we want to get it into commercial operation, including Kusile unit number 5, the synchronization of Kusile unit number 6. We continue to focus on the skills. There will not be a point where we say we have sufficient skills. We'll continue to improve, keeping up with technology going into the future. And then the long-term extension of life of Kusile Kubek unit. So Kubek unit number 1, we're now working on unit number 2. And once we get those in place, and Mr. Marokane and the team work on new generation capacity, because we know that by 2030, there's some megawatts that must come out as part of reducing the emissions. We must replace those megawatts, so it's important that the ESCOM must move with speed to address those. So I want to make the point, our ambition is not 65%. Our ambition is 70% and above. So that's the point. And in so doing, we're going to oil the machinery of the South African economy, make sure that the smelters, the furnaces, they get to be restarted, people are into jobs, increase capacity utilization, reliability of supply, as we resolve the issues of the cost of electricity, and then the South African economy will be back on its feet. Here's just an illustration. You can see the trend line, 2023, the losses with regards to the megawatts that they were not in operation, were out as a result of machines failing. We peaked at about 18,000 megawatts. And today, as I speak to you, we're averaging about 10,800 megawatts. So that's exceptional performance. What that means is that Mr. Marokane and the team have gotten back 7,000 megawatts. The situation of today compared to 2023 was 7,000 megawatts to the good, and thanks to Mr. Marokane. And that's why when I make the point all the time, we are within touching distance of resolving load shedding. I'll come back. I'm sure the rest of the country wants to hear me to say load shedding is fully behind us. I can tell you us very, very close to that. We'll be the first ones to share that with you. You can see the numbers with regards to the EAF are going up, and we are confident of maintaining those numbers. So I did make the point about we have retained Kusile 1, 2, 3 in terms of us meeting the emissions parameters. Kubek unit number 1, the extension of life, and then the other station, you remember I said there were stations that were complicit, that they delivered us into load shedding. One of those exceptional performers from an improvement point of view is Tutuka. So we've gotten back unit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, an additional 1,500 megawatts. That's exceptional. So now we take them, that station from an ICU, it's in a general ward, Now it will walk on its own, and then it starts running. When it starts running, the lights will just be on and on and on. But the point is that when they are on, the lights must be affordable. That's the next question that is confronting us. And you know that in the immediate future, extension of Kubek Unit Number 2, we really want nuclear to perform the function of base load. It's clean, it's reliable, it's efficient from an operational efficiency point of view. We know that it's one of the cheapest sources of electricity when it's operational. And of course, that's the movement that we're making. So I want to say to the rest of the country, we're in a good space. We're moving in the right direction. We made the promise that we are going to address this situation. We have made the promise that we are confident of our technical ability to resolve what many thought was an intractable challenge. We are within that touching distance. So we are saying that the next phase that we are addressing, load reduction and the cost of electricity. And as I conclude, I want to say that we'll continue with these initiatives that got us here. So what we have done is to design a template for the country for ailing SOEs that are finding it difficult to come out of a difficult situation. We have designed a template in the electricity space. That template can be exported to other parts of the SOEs. Like I said, we'll reduce the number of trips because those are the ones that makes us rely more and more on burning diesel. Once we resolve the number of trips, we'll be fine. And that has to do with the investment we are making on the skills, the investment we are making on our planning regime, the investment we are making on execution of planned outages. And that's the skills now that Mr. Marukan and the team are working on. And I'm confident that they are going to do it right. So we're going to work much closer with the original equipment manufacturers because they know the performance of these machines. They know the parameters within which these machines must perform at, and that's why we're bringing them closer. To be at the table when we execute this outage, we must address the issues of contract management and also assurance. The issues of technology and artificial intelligence must be embedded in the work that we are doing. So there must be some dynamic engineering exercise, computational skills that are going to help us to imagine the kind of generation that we'll have and what must be the configuration of the type of demand we'll have and what must be the configuration of generation. And we are going to use the latest tools. And that's why Mr. Marokane and the team are investing in that. And then we are going to execute on strategic projects. I did say that Kubek Unit Number 2, important. The reductions of the emissions is a quest that we have set for ourselves. It's not primarily about the commitments we made to international bodies. We are not resolving the issues of emissions because we want to please the world. We are doing that because it's right to do so. We must protect the lives and the livelihoods of people within the immediate proximity of the footprint of the power station. We've got an obligation to play our role in ensuring that contributing to the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Not because of the kind of glory we want on the international arena, but as South Africans, we think that's the right way to go without keeping the lights off. The technologies there, Mr. Marokane will execute against that. And then there must be investment in people and people and people. That's our strategic resource. There is no resource much greater than the people. And we are reconfiguring the mindset. Their projection and outlook must be such that there's an appreciation for them to understand that ESCOM is a key pillar of the South African economy. Of course, they are in a bubble, in a power station, focus on instrumentation, focus on the rest of plant, but they must have a bigger picture of what ESCOM represents. And when we go to visit the power station, that's why what I get to convey myself and Mr. Marokan, the role and place of ESCOM in South Africa recovery, its economy, in getting people into jobs, because we are complicit in contributing to the unemployment lines, because the small businesses in the townships could not operate because the lights were off. They didn't have the capital to invest in uninterrupted power supply, generators and the like. Even those who got generators, diesel very expensive. So we owe it to the country To keep the lights on, they must be affordable, and of course it must be reliable. And I'm confident that we are on our way to getting there. So I want to say to the rest of the country that we are on a good betting pitch, to use the metaphor of cricket. So we want to average 70% as a better, so that's an extraordinary performance. Those who follow cricket will know that a better that they average 70%, having played more than 50 test matches, that's at a different level. We want to be in that. We want to be permanently in the Champions League, just to use the metaphor of football. Very few teams in the country, but we want to be there. We want to be in that league. When we are in that league, the country performs. When we're in that league, the economy grows. And of course, like I said to those who are watching, I'm coming back on load reduction. Those who are watching, I'm coming back on the issues of affordability. We are delivering on this. We are confident we'll deliver on the rest, because we don't doubt our technical ability to resolve this challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for the consistent and transparent key updates and detail on the state of our electricity systems through and through as we navigate through the various junctures of South Africa's journey towards energy security. Colleagues, the Minister and the panel in front of us, ESCOM executives here, are ready to take questions for your further clarity and insight. By a show of hands, we'll start with questions in the room, and then we'll also take questions online. I see Antoinette, 2, 3. Okay, so we've got 4 questions. In that order, we'll start with you, Antoinette, and we'll come to the side of the room. Thanks.
Antoinette Slowik, I'm a freelance journalist. I've got 3 questions. The first one is, Minister, when do you expect the IRP to serve before cabinet? And then, I don't know whether Mr. Marconi can assist me. I've asked ESCOM how many distribution agency agreements have been signed with municipalities. It hasn't responded to me within 3 weeks, so I don't know whether there's a big secret about the number. Maybe you can assist me. How many distribution agency agreements have been formally signed with municipalities? And then to the Minister also, why do you think it is necessary for ESCOM to create renewable generation capacity when the private sector can do it adequately? Is that not venturing into a space where ESCOM doesn't really need to be?
Thanks, Antoinette. Bataville, there's a question here.
I wanted to find out, so the Minister spoke about labor contribution and affordability, and part of that is competition. And ESCOM is involved in broadening these court rates regarding TV licenses. I'd like to understand, is it because of what? Anti-competitive behavior, as some have alluded to, and you issued a statement at the continuing
thank you for all the questions. Do we have questions online?
No questions online.
Okay, thank you. We'll get response.
I was just thank you very much for the questions. I was just whispering to the group CEO that all of these questions are directed to me. It's testimony to the fact that the lights are on, otherwise you'll have a lot of questions. Because we are transitioning now, so you can see the type of questions that we are asking. It's about the future electricity industry, and I welcome that. I want to start with the question raised by Dimakatso and Veronica with regards to the trading licenses. So let me start here. Government initiated the reforms, and they were led at the highest level by President Ramokgopa, and the reforms was to ensure that we de-risk the concentration of generation that sits with one entity called Eskom in this regard, and that we must introduce additional players in the space to ensure that there are choice options, but also, as Veronica was making the point, to increase competition, and with competition there's going to be greater levels of investment in R&D and then improving of the skills, but for the consumer, ultimately the net result is that we are going to cap the runaway tariff increases, and we will get to a point where it plateaus, and in fact there might be a cliff in relation to the electricity prices. By a cliff I mean there could be a period where in constant numbers they are coming down, the electricity prices. So we introduced those. And as part of that package of the reforms, we said that we are going to unbundle Eskom, have the NTCSA, and it is within that framework that the NTCSA received the trading license. So let's not forget that the NTCSA is also a beneficiary of this. So the long and short of the point I'm making is that the reform agenda is irreversible. So we're proceeding with the reform agenda. And then because this is a nascent space, we are starting, none of us have been in this space before. There's naturally going to be friction, interpretation, misinterpretation of what this reform means. There's going to be conversations, and in some instances disagreement on the pace of these reforms. The issue whether the regulator is capacitated enough to be able to manage and oversee these reforms. Is this monopoly that is Eskom ready to relinquish that monopoly and accept that there are new players? And what the Eskom team had raised was that we are not opposed to the reforms, but what we want is clarity with regards to the rules. There was an issue we're grappling with, grid access rules, and we must clarify also the rules on trading licenses. NERSA then initiated the process of reviewing, of coming up with the rules. The initial timeline was that they will do that within 12 months. And I asked NERSA that the pressure is such that we need to conclude those rules as soon as possible. And NERSA has agreed that we'll truncate that to 3 months without compromising the quality of the input and what the rules will look like. And in that context, I said to Eskom, it's not advisable that you go to the courts. So don't burden the judges to come into this domain. And with the highest the respect we have with the judiciary, don't invite the judiciary into a space that is really technical, if you like. So the minister will oversee this, as they say in my language, marumo fasi. So let's wait, the minister will do this within a regimented framework, and that's what we are doing. I've impressed upon Eskom that it is important that we come out of the courts and subject ourselves to the process. But what I want to say is that the reform agenda is irreversible. We are going that line, the trading license, once we conclude this with these rules, the trading licenses will be issued. What we're doing, finalize the rules, 3 months, and I'm sure that everyone can bear the 3 months. Everyone wants to have a rules-based approach to this agenda that we're pursuing. So that's the point I want to raise. And then on the issues around what that reform agenda does is that essentially everyone can participate in new generation. So what that does not say, Antoinette, does not say that ESCOM is prohibited from playing. ESCOM is but one of the players. So let me tell you what will happen if you were to prohibit ESCOM from playing. We know that the life of these coal-fired power stations are coming to an end. And in fact, the next generation of power stations to be retired is in 2030. There's a projected, it takes out 8 gigawatts. There's a projected next phase of power station to come out by 2035, another 15 gigawatts. It must come from somewhere. The private sector will participate, and then ESCOM has a right to participate. So when this power station goes out 2030, the next ones go out 2035, ESCOM will be left with Kusile and Medupi. And then we know that by 2050 or so, another 50 years, most of us won't be here. Those units will also have to be shut down. So what you are saying, the argument that says, and I'm not suggesting Antoinette is saying that, she's just asking a question. How we answer that is essentially if we say ESCOM can't consider participation in the renewable, we are essentially advocating for the demise of ESCOM. And I'll tell you what the problem is there. And that's part of the conversations around the trading license. The conversation is the following. There is no private generator of electricity who will start his or her company with the intention of supplying deep load, with the intention of supporting supplying Kailija or Seshego. They will not do it. The only person who can do that is ESCOM. And to Katleo's question, they are owed over 100 billion rand. Imagine you have invested in a company that is owed 100 billion and it can't collect. You fire the CEO, you fire the chair of the board. We can't do it. Because if I push Mr. Marukane, I push the board, what they will do, they will switch off Tshwane. They will switch off Joburg. They will switch off Ekurhuleni. They will switch off Buffalo. They will switch them off because they are not paying. But there's an SOE, we can sit with them around the table and say intergovernmental relations, and nudge municipalities, get to an agreement the same as Johannesburg. We are not guaranteed that they will keep to that agreement. And I must say for now they are keeping to that. I'm using Joburg as an example. I'm not suggesting anything. There is no private generator of electricity who invests his or her own money to provide for the poor. Doesn't exist. If that person exists, let me know of that person. He will get the approvals, EIA, everything immediately. We'll give it to him or her. Doesn't exist. So what is part of that conversation, Veronica and Dimakatso, that we must clear with regards to the licensing? How the tariff is structured is that the rich subsidize the poor. That's how the equation works. So when new players come, they will go for these well-paying people. So ESCOM will be left with the poor or the delinquent. Delinquent, I mean those who have the means to pay but choose not to pay. ESCOM collapses. Municipalities collapse. So this is a major, major policy issue. At the heart of the conversation, what about the poor? That's the question I must answer. We're sitting with a problem now. Look at load reduction. There's no load reduction in major suburbs. We will make an argument there's no illegal connection, but in some instances, load reduction is not driven by illegal connection. It's driven by an accelerated growth, and then people then increase their demand or the load, and then there's load reduction. Where do we find it? Load reduction. We find it in villages. We'll find it in peri-urban areas, what we call townships. So load reduction has got, if you like, socio-economic characteristics. Load reduction faces the poor disproportionately. Who must carry that? It is ESCOM. When I announce the plan on ending load reduction, I will not say it is this private developer. this new license, this new trader. No. It is Mr. Marukane that I'm saying we are going to resolve load reduction. He asked me the question, but they owe me 100 billion rands. Where am I going to get it? I say we'll resolve it. That's the problem that is confronting us. Is the problem beyond us? No, absolutely not. And you'll see when we present. So I'm saying the conversations are that complex. And it is in the structure of the tariff. Let me tell you the biggest risk we run. We accelerate at pace with the reforms. And I just told you they are irreversible. They are non-negotiable. We are going to do the reforms. We will achieve the reforms, the poor will be in darkness. We will achieve the reforms, the electricity will be there, the poor won't afford it. That's the problem that's confronting us. And it is the state that must resolve it. So I'm not throwing my hands in the air. I'm doing this figuratively, but not, or literally. But the point I'm making, we must resolve the problem. Where is the role and place of the poor in this conversation? We must answer that question. If I were to guarantee the poor uninterrupted electricity, it can only be provided by Mr. Marukane and ESCOM. And then he's sitting on this 100 billion rands that has not been paid. Go and ask the municipality. They are owed in return now, it's over 400 billion. There is no trader, no private generator who will go to Nkuwa and give electricity for free. It doesn't exist. You invest for the returns. There's an accelerated commodification of electricity. We have said that we're treating electricity as a basic right. That's a nuanced approach. As a basic, every person, irrespective of your economic income, we have a right to electricity. That's our approach. Of course, it's got a huge cost element. But the states make that declaration, and the state must deliver on that promise. And then to Antoinette and Katleho, the distribution agency agreement, of course, I'm canvassing it with municipalities. We are clarifying something with the National Treasury because they've done the debt relief program. What we are doing is to collapse that into the distribution agency agreement, just for the rest of the people who are watching. What we are saying is that the problem in municipalities is not a downstream problem. It's first and foremost not a non-payment problem. It's principally the capacity of the municipality to discharge its responsibility with regards to the provision of electricity. It has to do with the skills. I've gone to municipalities here. Less than 10 municipalities in the country, count all of them, have got professionally registered electrical engineers. I repeat, less than 10. So how are you going to discharge, do planning, scenario planning, understand what are the technical losses, what's the kind of reticulation infrastructure required, when those skills are not sitting with you? So the agreement, we say we bring the skills to you, we work with you, and we map the value chain, contract management, procurement, and then much later is payment. Rolling out smart meters, accuracy of billing, completeness of billing, credit control, making sure that the poor are able to get their free allocation of electricity from one month to the other. National Treasury makes the money available for the poor to get free basic electricity, gets to be given to municipalities. That money does not reach the intended target beneficiary. The municipality redirects that money because of the pressures they have. They'll pay salaries and do that, and then the poor don't have access to that facility. Now we want to resolve that. So to your point, Antoinette, canvass it with municipalities. We said for now we resolve something with National Treasury, and when we come back, we'll be able to share with you that so many municipalities have signed. I must say that there's an overwhelming response and appetite by municipalities to sign. I'm just finalizing with Minister Godongwana on how you incorporate that debt relief program and the associated resources to be able to enable us to roll out this ambitious program going into the future. And Antoinette, we are done with the IRP. It will serve in the next cabinet, I think, in about a fortnight's time. There's no cabinet this week and next week. I think that other week we are ready with the IRP, and then we'll then share with you on the execution of IRP. And then, Katlego, you're absolutely right. Part of dealing with load reduction is to deal with illegal connections. So we go into an area, we meet with communities, they commit, we roll out smart meters, everyone. We redesign the distribution to accommodate everyone, and then we expect them to pay. When I say commit, they commit to pay. And then we'll take care of the poor, those who qualify for free basic electricity. Because the platform of smart meters allows us to preload them. Beginning of the month, we've preloaded them. The platform of smart meters allows us to execute credit control. The platform of the smart meters allows us to balance the grid. Where there is pressure now on the grid, if we're to roll out sufficient meters, Mr. Marukan and the system operator doesn't necessarily have to run the diesel. All we do is that we switch off all the geysers in the households remotely, and we pull back on demand. And when the system recovers, then you are able to come back. And remember, it's really during the peaks. In the evening, that period, they can afford the geyser to be off, and then you switch it off, on, and then it warms the water. We are not compromising the quality of life of our people. So the point I'm making is that it's a very complex question. I want to restate. The reform agenda is irreversible. We're going to go through, the trading license will proceed. We'll resolve in these 3 months what those rules are, and then we proceed and ensure that we address this situation. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, Minister, for all the responses. Colleagues, we'll take the last round of questions. I don't know if we still don't have questions online.
We have 2 online questions.
Okay, let's start this time with the online questions, and then we'll come to colleagues in the room. Can you take us through?
Terence Brewer from Engineering News. Has ESCOM agreed to hold back on its legal objection to the licensing of some traders? And what does the Minister make of Salma now objecting to the trading licenses? Salma.
Thank you. By show of hands, we'll start with you.
No, sorry, I also wanted clarity on that because I wasn't clear that have they agreed to withdraw the case or not.
Thank you. Any other questions? Antoinette has a follow-up.
Thank you. Just going back to the distribution agency agreement, I know the one in Matabele and the one in Kuleni. Is it correct that those are the only 2 at this stage that have been, I know those have been ordered by the courts, so there are no others so far. And then also, Minister, about the ESCOM green issue, I don't understand why there are problems at distribution level. You refer to things like the interruptions at distribution level, load reduction and so on, and the tariffs. Why even unbundle ESCOM? Must ESCOM get involved in the renewables at the generation level while you refer to problems at distribution level? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? This is the final round of questions. We'll take
Oh, yes, to Terrence's question, so you can see the complexity of the issues that SALGA has entered the fray, the South African Local Government Association, which is a body that represents the interest of local government. They have entered the fray and they say they are objecting to the issuing of trading license for the reasons I've explained to you. So what SALGA is saying is that what this dispensation does, and I'm really simplifying some of the long articulation they are making, is that they are going to lose their best customers, who underpins and guarantee them the revenue stream. and they'll be left with those that can afford. So that's the argument. Being a mayor myself and a councillor for 10 years, I know that that's the reality. So I'm just saying, when you deal with these questions, the reforms are proceed. So don't conflate the two. It's the pace and scale and a rules-based approach. And then on whether ESCOM, I swear, it's a board took that decision, so it's outside the pay grade of Mr. Marukani. I've raised it with the chair. Don't enter the court process. We're going to muddy the space. We have agreed, NEXA is doing that, the shareholder will also oversee the process. It's a particularly unhelpful approach. It will muddy the waters. Allow the space, and for us as the players, there's friction. Yes, I understand it was anticipated. Let's sit, make a contribution to the rules, and in that period, the expectation is that let's clear the rules, and then once we have cleared the rules, then proceed with the issuing of the license. So I've raised that with the chair, and it's something that will go back and ensure that we are able to address it. So I have no answer now whether they've initiated it or not. The conversation took place yesterday. Yes, Enfuleni, you are right on the DAA. Now, as we speak to you, Mr. Marokana just reminded me there's 14 already in the negotiation phase, far a bit advanced, and we'll share with you the updated number of those that have signed, Anthony. So one of the issues I raised, maybe to Antoinette's question, is that when the experts told us, when I say us, I mean government, I was still at university at the time, that at the rate at which the economy is growing, and also at the rate at which you are connecting new customers, this is 1997, they say in 10 years' time you are going to run into problems with regards to generation. And what did we say? We say the market will resolve that problem. Fast forward, then you started a situation where you don't have sufficient generation capacity, and quick you put Medupi and Kusile. You can see what are the outcomes of that. You didn't have sufficient planning, cost overruns, and all of that. I am saying to the country today, we're going to take out 8,000 megawatts, 2030. We're going to follow that by taking out another 15,000 megawatts, 2035. So I must fold my arms and say, no, the market will resolve it. No, the market will contribute. There is nothing in law that says ESCOM cannot participate. If ESCOM's prices are not right, they will be decimated. But what we know is the following. ESCOM not entering that space is guaranteed to be decimated. ESCOM entering that space, it creates options for the end consumer. So the debate must not be amongst us whether ESCOM should participate or not. The law allows it to participate. Leave that choice to the end consumer. Do I want to buy from ESCOM or do I want to buy from Ramokgopa and Sons? And the choice of that is what Ramokgopa and Sons charges me and what ESCOM charges me. It's an open market. Let's all play. Let the games begin. If they are going to be, they will be decimated. I told the board, you are not competitive, you will die a natural death. But for God's sake, allow them to participate. You tell them enter into a fight, then I must handcuff them. And here's an opponent. You are in for a beating. Says, no, here are the gloves, wear the gloves. It's a round, 3 rounds. You can't use your legs. It's not martial arts. You can't punch below the belt. Let the best boxer win. That's all that we're saying. We should not be invested in the death of ESCOM. And you are not suggesting that, Antoinette, I'm making a bigger point. I'm telling the rest of the country, ESCOM is a backstop. I was in a debate in Parliament about sometime in July. For the whole week, it was inclement. They never had the sun for 2 weeks. Someone stood there and said that Cape Town self-reliant, generating renewables. I ask, but we have never had the sun for the past 2 weeks. Solar was the primary energy, is the sun. You convert that into electricity. There was nothing to convert. Imagine I tell you that Kusile is running, but he has no coal. It's not true. It's not. What do? Those who have got solar and PV, for that 2 weeks, they get the electricity from Eskom. They charge their batteries from Eskom, using Eskom. And then we say it must die. The poor lady in Ramokgopa can't afford electricity. Tonight she's able to cook, watch TV, bath. Why? Eskom. I ask the question, give me that generator of electricity, private sector, who's prepared to give electricity for free to the lady in Khayelitsha. We'll give him or her the license tomorrow. We'll support him. Whatever he needs, we'll drop everything, break the rules, we'll give it to him. It doesn't exist. So I'm saying it's a measured conversation. Private sector, yes. Everyone is welcomed. We will make sure that we level the playing field. And the one that does not have the right skills to participate will be decimated. That's what competition does. And we are here. And Eskom, I want to repeat, will participate in new generation. Whether it's nuclear, whether it's hydro, whether it's renewables, whether it's pump storage, Eskom will participate. And let the best person win. And that best person, reliable and also affordable, the customer will decide. Let's not be decide on behalf of the customer. But once more, thank you very, very much. The lights are on, and we intend on keeping the lights on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, and to the Eskom executives, and a big thank you to all the members of the media who always honor our invitation. That brings us to the end of today's media briefing. Until next time, have a good day further.
Thank you.